And the much-anticipated meet between U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping has concluded. Biden addressed the media, detailing out the progress made between the two leaders. In a major outcome of the high-stakes meet, both the nations have agreed to resume military-to-military level communications and also cooperate on anti-drug policies. Take a listen.
I'm pleased to announce that after many years of being on hold, we are restarting cooperation between the United States and PRC on counter-narcotics. We're reassuming military-to-military contacts, direct contacts. As a lot of you press know, follow this, that's been cut off, and it's been very worrisome. That's how accidents happen, misunderstandings. So we're back to direct, open, clear, direct communications on a direct basis.
China suspended military communication after former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last year. U.S. and China's militaries have had a number of near misses and acrimonious exchanges of the past year. Now, with the latest meet, both the countries have agreed to recommence ties. Both the leaders have also agreed to cooperate in addressing the source of the opioid fentanyl, a leading cause of drug overdoses in the United States of America. And under the latest agreement, the officials say that China has to take steps to dramatically cut the production of ingredients for the drug. With these major positive outcomes, the world also saw a hint of personal connect and also some light moments being shared between the two leaders in San Francisco. However, Biden has clarified that he still considers the Chinese president a dictator. These comments by Biden sparked anger from Beijing earlier this year as well. Talks between Xi Jinping and Biden also touched upon other friction areas, to name some, the Taiwan issue. Not toning down on this very issue, Xi told Biden to stop arming Taiwan and that China's reunification with the self-ruled island was unstoppable. Biden responded by assuring Xi that Washington was determined to maintain peace in the region, while he asked Xi to respect the upcoming elections in Taiwan. Well, both the leaders held first in-person talks this year. They met last year in Bali during the sidelines of the G20 summit. However, the ties between both the countries have been frayed since then. Contentions have also intensified over Taiwan, the South China Sea, tech dominance, stance on Ukraine war, among others, to name some. Well, Biden during the meet said that the U.S. and China, they have to ensure that competition between them does not veer into conflict. He said that at the time the world faces several critical global challenges, it demands their joint efforts at the moment.
I value our conversation because I think it's paramount that you and I understand each other clearly, leader to leader, with no misconceptions or miscommunication. We have to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict. And we also have to manage it responsibly, that competition. That's what the United States wants and what we intend to do.
While Xi, who is on a U.S. visit for the first time in 6 years, said that turning back on each other is not an option for U.S. and China. He added that U.S. and China relations have kept moving forward amid twists and turns in the past. He also highlighted several problems that the world is facing right now, especially the economic impact of COVID-19, and said that it demands greater U.S.-China cooperation.
作为世界上最重要的双边关系，中美关系要放在世界百年变局、加速演进这个大背景下来思考和谋划，为两国人民带来福祉，为人类进步展现担当。
The two leaders conducted a 4-hour meeting on the outskirts of San Francisco and will now move for APEC summit. As U.S. and China tensions have grown, both the nations have also increased the diplomatic efforts while they seek to stabilize ties. A series of meetings have taken place recently between U.S. and Chinese high-ranking officials, which has culminated in Xi-Biden meet. Reports say that the Chinese President Xi Jinping is currently under domestic pressure to revive the economy after years of stalled growth, and that was his priority for the discussions. Xi was met by the demonstrators who took to the street ahead of the Xi-Biden meeting. Hundreds moved through the city's center near the San Francisco Convention Center, chanting "Free Tibet" and "Free Hong Kong," while some pro-China demonstrators also gathered near the APEC summit venue. And now, to get you more insights on the highly anticipated Xi Jinping and Joe Biden meet, we're now being joined by VOA correspondent Jessica Stone, live from San Francisco. Welcome to the broadcast, Jessica. Right, now, Jessica, we saw some cut through in some very important areas and issues like controlling fentanyl and resumption of military level talks. What exactly stood out for you?
Well, the fentanyl agreement that we've learned about and we continue to learn about does stand out to me, in part because President Biden talked about it quite a bit during his press briefing. Going into this meeting, we knew that that could be one of the outcomes, but there is a complicated dance that President Biden is doing with respect to this summit with President Xi and also the overall APEC environment in terms of trade. He is under tremendous pressure from his fellow Democrats to do things like take away the trade pillar of the trade talks that are that the Biden administration has undertaken with this whole part of the world, including India, which is called the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. And so he needed a domestic win. And this is an electoral domestic issue. It is something that has affected a great number of Americans. 100,000 of them are dying because of fentanyl overdoses. If he can show some progress on this issue, it is really an important domestic victory for him. So it really stood out to me how many times he mentioned it during his press conference, and yet we still have so many details to uncover about the nature of this agreement, because this is not the first time China has agreed to curb fentanyl precursor chemicals. They did so under the Trump administration as well, and it didn't happen. So we do need to follow up on this and see what becomes of this agreement.
Absolutely, Jessica. Also, what can you tell us about the discussions around the Taiwan issue between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden?
You know, I found there was a background briefing from a senior administration official that outlined the conversation around Taiwan. And what was very striking to me about the quotes that are attributed to that senior administration official is that President Xi, according to this official, claimed that he did not have any military preparations or planning underway to invade Taiwan. That runs completely counter to U.S. intelligence, which tells us that China is readying to be capable of invading Taiwan in 2027, just 3 years from now. So that was very striking to me. President Biden, according to the same official, outlined what the United States is doing and said, look, if you're not going to do it, why are you putting so many why are you being so assertive in the Taiwan Straits? Why are you sending sorties over the island of Taiwan? Why are you increasing the cadence of your military activity in the region? If you would stop that, you would probably calm tensions in the region who have an expectation that you're going to invade Taiwan. So that was an interesting exchange, according to this official. And of course, as always, President Biden in public and in private has to acknowledge that the White House is still maintaining the one China policy. Of course, both China and the United States interpret that differently, and that's usually where the dissonance comes on that issue. So that was of great interest to me as well, that President Xi would say that the military is not planning to invade Taiwan.
Jessica, I also have to highlight here that the U.S. President Joe Biden called the Chinese President Xi Jinping a dictator. Can you take us through how that comment played out during Biden's presser, which took place just a short while ago?
Yeah, so this is one of those questions that happens at the end of a press conference when reporters are shouting questions at the president. He doesn't often actually engage with the White House press corps when they're doing that. Sometimes he'll take the first question and then keep on walking as he's shouted to other ones. This time he took a couple of them, and that was interesting to me because it's certainly been a very long day and a lot of politicking and a lot of wheeling and dealing for the U.S. president today. But he did take a question from a reporter just asking him if he still considered Xi Jinping a dictator. And he answered with some context. He said, yes, but look, this is a person who's leading a country that has a different system from ours. So I do think this is making headlines, certainly in the United States, but it's important to make sure that you understand that he's talking about him as a dictator, and not in the absence of a system around which he is the central leader, and that is the system that governs China. So he's not calling a democratic leader, for example, a dictator. That said, I suspect that this will not play well in Beijing, and it remains to be seen what it will do to the outcomes that were just announced. I mean, that's the danger here, right? We saw this with the last time they met, that almost immediately after the meetings on the sidelines of the G20 in Bali, Indonesia, that they did in fact have events rise that sort of overcame the promises made during that exchange.
Right, Jessica, apart from the key issues being discussed between both the leaders, we also saw some light moments being shared between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden there in San Francisco, where Biden also shared a picture of Xi Jinping. If you can talk to us about the personal connect between both the leaders, and I just also want to add here that we also saw both Xi Jinping and Joe Biden taking a short walk together after their nearly 4-hour-long bilateral.
Right, and that's just reminiscent of the initial time at Sunnylands here in California between President Obama and President Xi Jinping at the beginning of the U.S.-China relationship under what became the Asia pivot and really began to change the U.S. posture towards trade with China, exchanging national security information and the like. So yes, they certainly spent a lot of time today, more than they did in Indonesia. But this is something that Joe Biden talks about with some inaccuracies in terms of fond memories that he certainly does have of their exchanges, but often inflates the number of times and the amount of time he spent with President Xi Jinping. They do go back to the vice president days, and I remember covering that myself in 2013 when President Xi came to Seattle when he was still the vice president of China and the likely leader at that point. And so you do see warmth, certainly, and history between these two leaders. Today, what you saw actually, which was a lovely little nugget of personal exchange, was that President Biden shares a birthday with with President Xi's wife, Madame Peng, and he wished her a happy birthday because he remembers his birthday, of course, in the exchange with President Xi. And President Xi said to him, according to a senior administration official, "Oh, I had almost forgotten it was my wife's birthday next week. I'll have to remember to do something for her," something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, it's good to have those lighter moments, certainly, especially in this very consequential relationship. So many serious conversations, so many consequential conversations had today between these two leaders. Good to have a moment of levity, that's for sure.
Absolutely, Jessica. Thanks very much for joining us on WION and sharing your insights with us on this.